So listen, I don't think you should panic, but I don't think the Spurs are going to win anymore.
That right there is the sound bite of the century at this moment. I genuinely do not believe the Spurs are going to win another game anymore. Wow. Okay. Listen. To react that intensely based on a single contest. And I've already done an extensive breakdown and analyzed this matchup over on the Basketball channel, JWL Hoops. Definitely go check it out. I go through the footage, walk through the analysis, have all those conversations about what San Antonio did correctly, what they did incorrectly, and so on. I've also got breakdowns for the Minnesota Timberwolves as well, went through their film, all that kind of material. Great videos. Seriously, please check out that channel for the more thorough deep dive into this topic. But I stumbled across this little audio clip right here, and it just struck me. Do we not understand that there's a reason these contests are best-of-7 series? Do we not get that? And it's hilarious because Nick clearly does not want Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs to succeed. He does not want them to be extraordinary. He's felt that way from the very beginning. From the jump. And that is just wild to me. How can you watch that one game and then automatically conclude that the series is effectively over? That it's finished? Nope. Done. And it's like, wait, what? A lot of this stems from people underestimating who the Minnesota Timberwolves really are. They thought Minnesota had zero chance of beating Denver. Then when they eliminated Denver, those AIM people said, well, that's actually lucky for the Spurs, that the Timberwolves knocked the Nuggets out. And now it's like, actually, no matter what, the Spurs were always destined to lose. They wouldn't have beaten the Nuggets. They're not going to beat the Timberwolves. They're not going to beat Oklahoma City. It's just done. Over. Wash your hands of it. And I'm sitting here thinking, do we forget? Why is it that every single year we forget this is a 7-game series? Why do we keep doing that? Why, year after year, do we ignore that the NBA playoffs, the ones featuring legends like LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, and Michael Jordan, are a series where you have to win multiple games, where you play some at home, some on the road, and then you go back and forth? Do we not remember? Every single year we treat each individual game as the absolute truth. This is the reality. This is the reality of the matchup. And I'm left asking, wait, what? What are we doing here right now? I mean, seriously. What are we doing? Let's think about how that mindset has worked out for the Boston Celtics. How did it work for the Orlando Magic? How did it work for the Denver Nuggets last year? Huh? How did it work for the Toronto Raptors? For the Houston Rockets? We always take one singular contest and declare, this is the truth of the series. This is how it's going to go. And it's like, wait, what? And you know what's really funny? This is so perfect. I love when I have a take that ends up being incredibly accurate. And it's not necessarily that it was a precise prediction, but it perfectly aligns with the narrative. I said this months ago, well before the playoffs even started. I said that in a 7-game series, a team like the San Antonio Spurs is better equipped to win than if this were a March Madness-style single-elimination tournament. That's exactly what I said. I won't be able to find the specific video, I've made a million of them, and I don't remember which one I said it in because I just mentioned it during some random Spurs breakdown. But I said it clearly, given how this team operates, and given how these playoffs are structured, in a single-game elimination format, I couldn't stand there confidently and say I think the Spurs are going to the finals. I wouldn't be able to do that. But in a 7-game series? Game on. That's where we stand. I think this is an overcorrection born from people doubting who the Minnesota Timberwolves are, mixed with a desperate desire to not see Wembanyama and the Spurs become great. It's fascinating to me because I consider myself a general fan. I think of myself as someone who's pretty in touch with the mainstream fan experience. Obviously, I'm more dialed in than the average viewer, I'm not a casual. But I'm also a man of the people. I understand that when the New England Patriots got good again, people groaned, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. When the Kansas City Chiefs keep inning, it's the same reaction, are you kidding me? We can't have this. That feeling is real. And if it were the Los Angeles Lakers, the masses, outside of LeBron fans, weren't hoping for him to win there. They don't want that to become a thing. But I never thought there was that same sense of dread about the Spurs getting great again. I know when Wembanyama was first drafted, people said, "Oh my gosh, are you serious? That's not fair. Now the Spurs can be great again." But it wasn't at the level of, "Now the Patriots have their coach and quarterback for the next decade plus, are you kidding me?" That's where I see some of the pushback coming from, this underlying angst about San Antonio. Yet I've never found the Spurs to be that team people love to hate. They played such wonderful basketball, and they haven't really had many unlikable personalities. And listen, I'll be totally honest, I'm not a big fan of Greg Popovich in terms of how he addressed the media and spoke to people. I didn't like his demeanor. He's obviously a brilliant, elite coach. But I always thought he and Bill Belichick were perfect examples of where the leagues need to step in and say, "You have to answer questions. You need to stop being so dismissive and confrontational. This is part of your job. I know you don't like it, but it's part of it. You have to invite fans in. When you're talking to the media, you're talking to the fans. That's how this works." I always felt they were perfect representations of just, stop. Dude, you're in such a position of power. I understand you don't enjoy it. I understand you get asked the same questions over and over. Cry me a river. You get paid tens of millions of dollars and live an insanely fortunate life. So that's that. I'm not even out here telling you that I love everything about the Spurs, that they're my favorite team, that they're the best. I'm not coming from that place at all. But it never landed on me that the Spurs were a franchise you would love to hate, like the Lakers, the Patriots, the Chiefs, etc. And I don't even see that with the fans. Do I sense it with some media members? I'm still trying to figure that out, honestly. I really am. And again, the Minnesota Timberwolves can absolutely win this series because they are a great team. They are an awesome squad, and they are incredibly experienced. They have a ton of playoff mileage. I've been on that train for a while, really, a couple of years ago, back when I was making all my basketball videos on the football channel. Then I realized that channel was just going to become a football channel. So now I still like to post some basketball content here to create some synergy. That's why I like this conversation. To me, it's more about thoughts and feelings and a misunderstanding of how the playoffs operate and who each opponent truly is. So yeah, I'm incredibly excited to see how this actually unfolds. Again, I want to be very clear to Spurs fans, I believe in how special the Timberwolves are. They are an extraordinarily well-coached, experienced team. That's why I did those breakdowns on both sides. The way that separate film analysis worked was really about pointing out a lot of the mistakes the Spurs made and highlighting the correct decisions and hustle plays the Timberwolves made. I keep wanting to say Vikings, the Timberwolves made. And to me, it was very clear. It was a line right down the middle. Everything that went right, everything that went wrong. You could stack far more positive things on the Timberwolves side than on the Spurs. So yes, San Antonio absolutely could lose this series. But you cannot watch that one game and then automatically jump to the conclusion that Nick Wright just did. That, to me, is just crazy. That's getting lost in a single contest. That's being swallowed up by one game. So Game 2 is going to be a big one. It's not only a necessary bounce-back opportunity, but to me, it's not even just about winning. Obviously you need to win, obviously it's the playoffs, every win counts, and any time you drop a game it can have devastating consequences. But it's about this team continuing to evolve. That's why I keep saying the motto is, we win, we learn. We learn, we win. We learn, we win. That is where this team is at. They have continued to learn throughout every single playoff game. That's why I'm incredibly excited to see what their approach is and how they attack this next matchup. It's not simply a matter of winning. They could win this game and Minnesota could go ice cold, or the Spurs could get ridiculously hot and shoot 50% from three, knocking everything down. And yeah, that would be great. But I want to see higher quality execution. I want to see them actually make the right plays at the right time. I want to see them appropriately involve Wembanyama and stop either isolating him on an island or ignoring him completely, leaving the offense stagnant. We are going to learn a lot. If anything, watching this second game and seeing how it unfolds will allow you to get much closer to a conclusion about whether the Spurs are never winning or whatever the hot take might be. But oh, brother. That's why basketball really is so, that's why the playoffs for basketball are so great and can be so underrated. I feel like if you're obsessed with and dialed into football, it's a little harder for you to understand just how great a 7-game series is. Because when you truly know basketball, when you really understand it, when you're locked in, you realize you're essentially watching a 7-game series between the Chiefs and the Bills, or the Eagles and the Chiefs. There's just so much more going on. And especially when you get to the final 5 or 6 minutes of the fourth quarter, every single possession matters. It really does start to feel like football. Every possession is crucial. Honestly, the NBA playoffs are some of the best sporting events around. When you look at sport as a whole, the basketball playoffs, when you're talking about two great teams, two awesome squads, are incredible. That's what the broadcast kept saying the whole time, this is a heavyweight battle. This is a heavyweight battle. And it really is. The names aren't as popular or as big as Kobe versus whoever, or LeBron versus Steph. We associate those matchups because we're so obsessed with the face of the league. And Wembanyama isn't there yet, and apparently doesn't want to be. So it doesn't always feel like heavyweights. Rudy Gobert just doesn't hit that hard. But it is great basketball. Great basketball. And I think it's been box office so far. So if you're reaching very firm, strong conclusions after week 1, after game 1, I encourage you to just take a breath. Take a beat. Here's the thing about overreacting to a single loss. People forget that series shift. Momentum changes. Adjustments get made. Coaches figure things out. Players get more comfortable. The Spurs have a young core, yes, but they also have something that a lot of people overlook, adaptability. They've shown all season that they can learn from mistakes. That's why the "we learn, we win" mentality isn't just a catchy phrase, it's actually how this roster has operated. Look at the way they've responded to bad losses during the regular season. Time and again, they'd drop a game they should have won, and instead of spiraling, they'd come back with a sharper game plan, better energy, and more discus. Pline. That's not an accident. That's coaching. That's culture. And that's something that survives even a lopsided Game 1 defeat. Now, does that guarantee they'll win Game 2? Of course not. Minnesota is legit. They're deep, they're physical, and they have defensive anchors who can make life difficult for any offense. But the idea that one game tells you everything you need to know about a 7-game series? That's just not how basketball works. It never has been. Think about some of the greatest playoff series in NBA history. How many of them started with one team getting blown out in Game 1, only to come back and win the whole thing? Plenty. That's the beauty of the format. It allows for adjustments. It allows for responses. It allows for the better team to eventually prove itself over multiple games, not just one. So when I hear someone say the series is over after one game, I genuinely wonder if they've watched basketball before. Or if they're just reacting emotionally. Or if they've already made up their mind about Wembanyama and the Spurs and are just looking for evidence to support their bias. And look, I'm not saying the Spurs are guaranteed to win this series. Far from it. Minnesota is a tough, experienced opponent. They have multiple shot creators, a strong defensive identity, and they just went through a war with Denver. That matters. That kind of postseason battle hardens a team. It prepares them for moments like this. But the Spurs have something too. They have a generational talent in Wembanyama. They have a coach who has seen every possible playoff scenario. They have young role players who are gaining confidence every time they step on the floor. And they have nothing to lose, because almost nobody expected them to be here in the first place. That last part is important. The Spurs are playing with house money in a lot of ways. The pressure is on Minnesota to prove they can follow up their Denver upset with another strong performance. The pressure is on them to show they belong in the conversation with the West's elite. San Antonio? They're just trying to learn, grow, and steal a few games. That doesn't mean they're not competing. It doesn't mean they're just happy to be there. But it does mean that a Game 1 blowout isn't going to shake their confidence the way it might for a veteran team with championship or bust expectations. They're building something. And building takes time. So I'll say it again, if you've already written off the Spurs after one game, you're missing the point of a 7-game series. You're getting lost in the moment. You're forgetting that basketball is a game of runs, adjustments, and resilience. Game 2 will tell us a lot. If the Spurs come out flat again, if they make the same mistakes, if they still can't figure out Minnesota's defense, then maybe we can start having a different conversation. But even then, it wouldn't be over. It would just be a deeper hole to climb out of. That's the thing, Abu. Playoff basketball. It's never over until someone wins 4 games. Everything else is just noise. So to the people ready to declare the series finished after 1 game, to the Nick Wrights of the world, I just ask, have you learned nothing from playoff history? Have you forgotten how many times a team has dropped game 1 and then come back to win? Have you forgotten that the NBA postseason is designed to find the best team, not the hottest team after 48 minutes? I haven't forgotten. And that's why I'm not panicking. That's why I'm excited to see what happens next. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about the San Antonio Spurs? Not winning? Is it panic time? Is it over? Are they never winning another game? Done? Game, set, match? Should Wembanyama not even show up? Should no one show up? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here. I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.